So here are some of the must-know settings that I wish I knew for Fujifilm when I first started with their system. I'll be using the Fujifilm X-T5 for demonstration today, but most of the settings should be the same, if not very similar, across all the other Fujifilm cameras. Unlike many other digital cameras that uses the peasant dials, such as the program mode, aperture mode, and so on. Most of the Fujifilm camera doesn't have that, and instead, all of the camera settings and dial is on the very top of the camera like you see here. You can set the basic camera settings physically, kind of like a film camera if you will. So for example, if you want to shoot everything automatic on your Fujifilm, all you have to do is to set aperture, shutter speed, and the ISO to auto, which is the A that you see on the dial, and you'll be in full automatic mode. So if you want to use shutter priority mode, all you have to do is adjust the shutter speed to however fast that you need. And this is very intuitive and a lot easier compared to a lot of other camera brands. So using the same concept and idea, you can do the same thing with aperture and ISO here. This is a way better system than giving you some sort of acronyms for all of these different modes. And in fact, the system is so good to the point where Canon also included this FV mode into their new mirrorless camera system, which is mimicking exactly what Fujifilm has done here. Basically everything is in auto, but once you want to access aperture mode, all you have to do is change the aperture on the camera. And that is essentially what Fujifilm does here. So if you want to set everything manually, all you have to do is to change each of the camera settings to your likings, except automatic. And just keep in mind that whenever you're in full manual mode, the exposure composition dial will not work. Just like the analog dials that it has on top for all of the camera settings, the focus mode is down here where you can set it physically, and the S stands for autofocus single, the C stands for autofocus continuous, and M is just manual. Now here's a very important tip. Whenever you're inside the menu and you see something that's like grayed out where you can't access the function, it might be because you have the focus selector to manual, and all you have to do is to switch to C or S, and this way you'll be able to access the function again inside the menu. And speaking of focus, if you find yourself in a situation where you want to recenter the focus point, all you have to do is to press the joystick either once on the Fujifilm X-T5 or it could be twice on some of the older Fujifilm models. The next thing I want to talk about is the view mode, and essentially what it does is you can pick and switch, toggle through different kind of view modes in the camera. So this could be either using just the LCD screen or just the EVF, or you can simply put it into LCD screen and then use the eye sensor, so whenever you get closer to the camera, the EVF will turn on. And there's also this mode where it turns everything off until you put your eye close to the viewfinder, and EVF will turn on automatically when you're closer to the camera. I think that's the best view mode to choose if you want to save battery. So if one day you turn on the camera and you don't see anything on the screen or the viewfinder, it's most likely because you have the view mode on a different setting. Just kind of toggle through the view mode and you'll be able to see the screen again. And of course, that could also be caused by the lens cap in front of your lens. And now on the Fujifilm X-T5, you can actually customize the view mode button to any other functions that you want. I believe this is only on the X-T5, but let me know if I'm wrong about this. Either way, having the option to change the view mode button is great, and maybe they could give like a firmware update to all of the older models. And if you want to quickly customize any of the buttons on your Fujifilm camera, all you have to do is to press and hold the back button for a couple seconds and you'll be able to access the button customization menu. Eventually, you'll also want to set up my menu for quick access to the settings that you use often. Inside the settings, you can add items, reorder items, or just remove the items that you don't use that often anymore. So whenever you go inside the menu, you can just go to My Menu for the settings that you use most often. Now, Fujifilm also has this Q menu for quick adjustment, which I personally don't use that often whenever I'm shooting in RAW, which is pretty much all the time. But if I do want to play around with the film simulation and playing around with the recipes, this is where I'll go to and try to adjust different settings to make a certain type of look I'm looking for. And I find it easier and faster to just go inside the quick menu and adjust different settings for the JPEG recipe that you're creating. And again, if you're shooting in RAW, this will not affect anything really. Here's something to keep in mind. There's different setting menus for stills and movies, so make sure you're in the right mode first and then go inside the menu to adjust the settings to your liking. So right now I'm in still mode and you can still see there's movie settings, but this is all you get. And now switching to movie mode, and then let's go back to menu. And then the very first one is movie settings, but you have all of these other settings that you can change and adjust for just movies, videos basically. While we're inside movie mode, you can also come down here and change the movie optimize control and turn that off. Basically what it does is that whenever you have it on, you won't be able to adjust any of the camera settings by using all of these analog dials up here. And of course this depends on personal preference, but whenever you're shooting video and you notice that you can't adjust any of the settings using the dial, this is most likely why. Inside power management, you'll see performance, and usually I just keep the boost mode on all the time, both for photos and videos. Because if I'm out taking photos or videos, I want the camera to be performing at its highest capabilities. Why would I want to cripple it to save some batteries? That's why you get spare batteries, right? Obviously that was more of a personal take on this, but you can adjust it however you want according to your shooting style. The next thing you might want to take a look inside the settings is the auto power off temperature. Basically what this does is to set a higher boundary for your camera whenever it thinks it's getting too hot. But either way, when the camera thinks it's getting like really hot to the point where it can't handle it anymore, it'll turn off automatically without damaging the camera anyway. So don't worry, by setting it up to high, it's not going to damage or like burn down your camera or anything. Another setting that you should definitely look into and just basically turn it on all the time is the shoot without lens. So for example, you got some third-party lens, or even if you have like some old vintage lens that you want to pair up with your Fujifilm camera, which you could with an adapter. But if you have this setting turned off, the camera will not take the shutter whenever you have those lens on the camera. So that's why you want to turn it on. And to be honest, I'm not exactly sure why that's still an option inside the settings. It should just be on all the time. That'll make life a lot easier. And right next to it, you'll see shoot without an SD card. Do yourself a favor and just go ahead and turn that off. If you have it turned on and you go out and start shooting either for an event or wedding, and somehow you forgot to put an SD card inside the camera, you can still shoot, but you will come back with 0 photos because it won't tell you that you don't have an SD card in there. So seriously, just do yourself a huge favor, just turn it off. If you like Fujifilm videos like this, definitely check out this video next. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.